much for joining us, Beth and Linda. We're excited to have you guys here for our weekly agent trainings. One of the big things that all of us are struggling with right now are appraisals and trying to figure out how to write offers and how to get them accepted and then get them to appraisal value, which is a little tricky right now. So we were hoping that you could help us understand a little bit about what's going on your side of the market and how we might write confident, strong offers that will also make sense for our clients.
Okay. Well, I have this PowerPoint. It doesn't really fit your description, but if you want me to start it, I can, or I can just kind of jump into talking about what you just mentioned.
Why don't we start with talking about just kind of the current situation that you guys are in right now?
Okay. So, my biggest thing is you got the listing, you know what is happening in that market. And it starts with me with number one thing is make sure your data is correct. Don't guess on the square footage, have somebody measure it for, I do measuring for people if you think something's off with the assessor record, but make sure all that is correct in your listing, and provide tons of pictures, of the listing, and which includes the basement too, and do an accurate calculation of the basement square footage, because when it comes down to making adjustments, if your numbers are all skewed and they don't match what the assessor has, or match with what your pictures have, or all that just adds confusion to the whole appraisal. So just make sure your data is correct in your listing, and then make sure when you do have your offers, meet the appraiser at the house with your comps that you used, how you listed it. Tell the appraiser, we had 7 offers, we had 60 people through, whatever, and highest and best, and explain to them what the market did for this house, or didn't do, or whatever, or we're seeing things where where houses have been on the market a little bit longer, or there's been deals that have fallen through. We need to know why those fell through, if it was a well and septic issue, or or just borrowers financing or whatever, because all those things add questions to the whole process. But
right.
I would say the biggest thing is to meet that appraiser at the house, give us the data that you know about the house, how great it is, updates, provide the updates in the listing with, I have that sheet, I don't know if I've shared it with you, where the seller sits down and rates all the years that they did improvements.
Oh yeah.
That's so helpful, because we need that information. And I use that information and the seller's disclosure statement to make my condition adjustments. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But yeah, right now, like I said, it's just really tough. And I try to use the most recent sales, anything after September that have happened, and to try to figure out where we're going. And
how do you guys adjust for things like scarcity in the market? Because right now, as of yesterday afternoon, there were 371 active listings in the Greater Lansing Association of Realtors. 371 houses is ridiculous. Right. So how do you guys then, because I just closed on my house, and the same exact model, I bought a new construction, the same exact model is being built across the street, and then on a street that's perpendicular to my street.
Right.
The one perpendicular to my street, which will close probably later this month or early next month, or April or early May. That one sold for $50,000 more than my house.
Right.
And the one across the street sold for $80,000 more than my house.
Right.
And I had an appraiser call me and say, why? I'm like, you're the appraiser. Good luck.
Well,
But the
those
one across the
most of
street did appraise for $400,000. And I don't know how they're like, I don't even know how you begin to adjust and
Right.
things like new builds with the cost of materials going so high and being
Right.
such a weird place. How do you guys compensate for that?
Right. Well, and that's a different situation. And that most of that is construction costs,
Yeah.
you know, because they've quadrupled since last fall. So, you know, where the typical house in your neighborhood was selling for 330.
Right.
Now the base price is 380, you
Yeah.
know, and it's just that's a tough one, you know,
Because your
and that
appraisal
just
hasn't
comes
gone up
down
that
to,
much.
oh, no, but it's all construction costs. So
Yeah.
in that situation, you have to compare it to brand new homes,
Yeah.
you know, but at the same time, when an appraiser does a new construction, we have to compare it to properties that have had market exposure. So it kind of, you have to have like a spec home to compare it to. So a lot of times those new construction, I mean, it's the appraised value is probably less than the contract price because of the cost, you know, the materials is going up so high.
Yeah.
So
And there's just no way to get around that, is there? I mean,
no, the borrower just needs to bring more in, you know, to cover it. So yeah, but in the other situation, if I can do a time adjustment, if I can prove that there's an increase in the market in a normal situation,
mhm.
I can do a time adjustment to make up for these overbids, you know. But
Yeah.
like I was telling Kelly the other day, some of these overbids are just completely ridiculous.
They're
You
insane.
know, $20,000 in a $100,000 neighborhood. I mean, it's just like, I still have to have support for what I do. So,
Right? You can't just
I
be like, yeah,
mean,
sure, that sounds good. Sign up
right.
on that.
And if we don't have proof that I mean, in a lot of my markets, I'm showing a year over year increase, but I'm not seeing an increase in the last 90 days. It sounds funny, but some of them I'm seeing stability in the last year when you look at the whole big picture.
Really?
Yeah.
So is it that agents are undervaluing the property to begin with to try and get those values, those overbids, do you think?
Well,
Or
it's based on sale price. So
yeah.
it's all based on what the properties have sold for. It's just that there's fewer properties in that data set, you know.
Good point, right?
Yeah.
Because
So
finding comps that you can use in the last 6 months is in some
exactly.
areas real difficult.
Right. And that's where I say, you know, we look in our GLAR MLS, but and then I click on all of the MLS, the 4 options, you know,
Yeah.
Mish, Rick, and Real Comp, and
Right.
to see if any outside sales took place.
Right.
And try to pick those up for the neighborhood. And then I also go to the Zillow
Well, yeah.
or RPR too, which picks up all those sales. It picks
Right.
up all the odd sales, all the FSBOs, to try to find something extra to support that, you know, the contract price.
Yeah.
So, but I really haven't had a tough time with some of them. But and
Are there
luckily
particular areas that are becoming more problematic than others? Like, those crazy people down in Mason or
well,
Holt or Okemos or wherever.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't noticed that. Holt is tough because the numbers seem to be climbing higher than what the comps are.
Hmm.
Mason's always tough too, when it's hard. When you've got a little 800 square foot house that sells for ungodly amount of money, and it's just like, dang, you could build that little box someplace, but it's on some expensive dirt,
Apparently.
So
Mason's true.
but people are buying based on a payment right now, you know, and that's the thing that I think that's the issue. And but I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason. But like I said, we have to have good support for everything we do, and can't just keep applying increasing market adjustments if there's no proof for it.
Right.
Um, you know, um, Trying to, and now in the upper level too, once you get over the 300-400 mark, you're probably over the 400 mark. Um, those houses aren't selling as fast
Right.
unless they're super nice, but we just don't have the incomes to support,
Most
that upper range. So
for sure.
yeah, but those houses, to build them, they're way over $1 million to build those properties,
Wow.
but they're not getting the money back still for all that investment.
Eek.
Yeah.
So your PowerPoint that you have, tell me a little bit about that, and maybe we can spend the rest of the time just going into that.
So the PowerPoint deals with measuring properties, and an appraiser is a realtor. So you can't talk bad about an appraiser unless you want to go to grievance. Um, can't.
We would never talk bad about an appraiser ever.
So it's the golden rule. So yes, we are realtors, so you got to treat us nice. Can't talk bad about us. But I've got the sketch on how to measure a second floor, that kind of information, which I can forward to you too.
Yeah, if you could, do you mind going through some of that now? Because I think it would be really helpful for especially some of our newer agents, just to understand when we're doing our CMAs, how to come up with value that's going to be more accurate for your seller. So that would be
Right.
awesome.
Okay, so let me go to it and see how to share screen.
Oh, I think I have to do that. I'm sorry, hang on. Multiple participants can share. Okay, you should be able to now.
Oops. Are you seeing anything? No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I thought I had this all set up. Maybe I'm not doing it right. I'm sorry.
Fine. Please. One day we won't have to Zoom anymore.
I
Laugh
know.
about those days when we Zoomed.
Yeah, darn it.
Is the file open already on your desktop?
It is.
Okay, so when you go down the bottom button, hit share screen, then what's going to come up is you'll come up your screen, and down at the lower level corner, it'll say show all. And then take your little gray dash along the side and drag it all the way down to the bottom. So it'll show you your files that are open, and then you can click on your presentation.
Okay.
I was just trying to do that to make sure I can do that with mine.
Okay, let me, oh shoot.
So
Get
if you
back
hit
in.
screen share, and then once that pops up, there'll be a lower right-hand corner. It should show all. And then it'll show you every page that you have open on your desktop.
Okay. Get it open. I don't see what you're saying though.
All right, so when you hit screen share, a box comes up, right?
Yeah,
Okay, the lower right-hand corner, does it say show all of that box? Lower right-hand corner of that box?
it says, oh there, let me see.
So if it says show all, click on that. And then there's a gray bar to the very right.
Yeah,
Drag that bar all the way down the bottom.
I think my problem is something else. Shoot.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. Technical errors. I did it the other day and it worked so good. I don't know if I'm gonna do this. I don't know. I think it's locked right now. I wonder if I send it to you.
That's fine. Email it over. I'll open it.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No. In the meantime, tell us about things like when we go into a house that is super updated, as opposed to a house that really needs a lot of updates. How do we assess the value of those updates? Like if you have somebody that redid a kitchen with soft close cabinets and granite countertops and they've got wood floors, as opposed to somebody that has the 1980s laminate with the wood beveled edge and honey oak cabinets and peeling linoleum floor. Not that I've ever seen a house like that in Lansing, but
How do well, it basically you're gonna try to find properties that are just like that. You know, that's what bracketing is. But that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna find those similar properties to compare it to, because that's what the appraiser's gonna have to find.
in order to give it value.
Right. The lender's gonna want to see that you bracketed all those. Oh, I'm sorry. Bracketed all those different features to be able to give it value, because if I can't bracket it, the lenders the lender won't accept, big condition adjustments.
Mhm.
I can do smaller adjustments, but unless you can actually say, this house sold for $20,000 more because of that updating,
Mhm.
or it's the same thing with like a pole barn. If
Mhm.
you've got a pole barn, can't automatically give it $20,000 worth of value unless I have other comps that have a pole barn or a pool or something like that. They like to see that you've bracketed all these extra
Things.
features.
Yeah.
So, and you've got to bracket your size and your bath count and your basement finishing. Anything that you really want to give value to,
Mhm.
give you gotta find comparables basically.
So if you can't find, if you've got somebody that has a finished basement and you can't find any comps with a finished basement, it devalues their finished basement rather than really gives it value.
Well, I don't know if it devalues it, because you're still going to give it some value, but maybe you've got to prove that there's a market that's going to pay for
For
that
it.
feature, right?
Right.
So making a $20,000 adjustment for a finished basement when the typical property doesn't have one or just has some old finishing, you know, where did you get that $20,000 from? So
Yeah.
that's the question is, did you just pluck it from the air? Would a buyer really pay for that feature? So,
Right.
yeah. So,
And then my other big question on doing an accurate comparative market analysis. So I typically like to go 2 to 300 square feet smaller and 2 to 300 square feet larger. Is that a good range or is that too much latitude in my range?
that might be a little bit, I probably tend to do more, well, 2 to 300 is okay. Probably 200 would be better, you know. But sometimes I go on the higher end and then narrow it down.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to make big adjustments. And that I do that too, to just in case I miss something that might be 999 square feet or, you know, something
Right.
like that.
Right.
Or it's hard in your neighborhood down by your office is all the Cape Cods, and some people use what the assessor has that shows it has 990 square feet.
Right.
Where if you actually measure the second floor, that house might be 1,200 or 1,400 square feet. So in that case, that it really pays to have somebody come and measure it for you,
Yeah.
or you learn how to measure it correctly to get that extra square footage.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I can tell that they're all the same house basically, and then I won't make a square footage adjustment at all because some use a city, some use, you know, an
A
accurate
previous.
measurement,
Yeah.
and you know that the buyer's buying the same property.
Right.
So a square foot adjustment won't even make sense. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then if I'm adjusting for price, so if I have a house that's 1,500 square feet and I find a house that's 1,700 square feet that's comparable, it's just a little bit bigger, how much weight do I give their extra square footage and price? I mean, because if I just do price per square foot, that's a lot.
Right, because so like in the appraisal, I'm gonna make an adjustment for, it's gonna be a line item. So if I make an adjustment for acreage and the difference in garage and difference in all this stuff, when it comes down to the square footage difference, I figure out the price per square foot that all these houses are selling for. And then I divide it by, depending on the quality, I divide it by 3, 4, or 5.
Okay.
5 would be a lower quality. And then that would be my price per square foot adjustment. It's called the Ratterman theory. And
Ratterman theory. I like that.
yeah, and so it's not the way a typical agent would do it, because a lot of times typical agent just does everything, the whole lump sum is by the square foot. But when an appraiser does it, we do it line by line adjustment for all the different features. And when it comes to the square footage, I figure out the price per square foot, and then I divide out, you know, if it's a high quality house, I'll probably divide it by 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be my price. So 200 square
Right.
foot by $60. Or if it's a house like mine, I divide it by 5 and it'd be, you know, 200 square feet divided by like $27 or something like that.
Right. Right.
So So it's kind of a sensitivity test too. It helps you kind of play with the numbers to bring everything into,
into a even
Yeah.
playing field. Yeah.
right.
And then how far do you go out? So if my subject property is in Glenmore Manor, but Glenmore Manor is kind of small,
Right.
but you've got all of those houses over like on Carhees that are kind of the same. Are you going to go that far outside of the neighborhood, or how do you gauge that?
I stick with the school district, and then you look at the quality of the home
Mm-hmm.
and that quality and size and all that, and then find those similar marketable. Where would a buyer pick if they didn't live in your neighborhood? What other neighborhood would they pick in that school district?
Any other neighborhood
So-
they can buy it.
Yeah, right now, anywhere they can find a house.
Right. And I've had to change my thought pattern on that,
Yeah.
where if I'm doing a property, say on the edge of Lansing School District or whatever, okay, I've got a house of this feature, it's got 4 bedrooms and 10 acres.
Yeah.
Where else in this whole geographic area? But then you got to narrow it down to quality and, find out, acreage costs and that would make it comparable with other areas. But yeah, you do have to what's available to them that would fit their needs. And, you can't just pick any random property.
It's more important.
Oh, good question. Kelly just asked, is quality and condition more important, or is size more important?
Quality and condition. I would go with quality number one, and that's what kind of keeps you in one neighborhood,
Right.
And then you pick another competing neighborhood, and sometimes that will be like the same age of house. They were all built in this, and this neighborhood was competing with this neighborhood over there. And then condition kind of follows, and then you would find the updated homes in that age group. But yeah, I would go with similar quality, and then you narrow it down for all the other. It's kind of like being like in, say, White Hills Lakes or something like that. You want to find a similar neighborhood to that, because that attracts a certain borrower and a certain quality, and so it's the whole package.
Nice. Okay, good. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us some insight. I have your PowerPoint here in my email now. Yay! I will share that with our agents also. And I really appreciate the time that you've given to us today, Beth.
Sure. I've got, there's a PowerPoint I can send you to about measuring houses.
Yeah.
But that PowerPoint has some good tips too, and
do it.
yeah.
The more we can get. I will see you out on the golf course soon.
Sounds good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.